podcast where people reach their goals and develop confidence one mind shift habit at a time. Let's join our host, certified coach Christina.
Welcome to this live episode of Conversations with Coach, your weekly podcast that helps you to live your best life by shifting your mindset. If this is your first time joining Conversations with Coach, welcome. I am your host, certified mindset and confidence coach, Christina Callaway. I partner with athletes, parents, and coaches, and together we develop the tools to increase their confidence and achieve their goals both on and off the field of play. We've all heard the saying, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will still be amongst the stars. This quote is about setting big goals. We are almost finished with the first month of the second quarter of this year. I know, right? Where is all the time going? I have a question. What are you dreaming about? Have you finished one chapter in your life and you're ready to embark on your next chapter? If you've answered yes to either of these questions, this episode is about you. My guest is a former collegiate gymnast. She competed for Auburn University for the last 4 years, and now that she is graduating, she has stopped by Conversations with Coach to share how she is dreaming big and being bold. Put some love in the chat and help me welcome our guest, Leigh Oldham, also known as Mo. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is truly such an honor.
You are so very welcome. I'm excited to have you join me. I'll really quickly tell the story of how we even connected. So most of my listeners know that I direct a gymnastics program here locally and get emails often, a lot of emails. Last week, I got an email from your dad, and it was not to me so much personally, but he was emailing it to the gymnastics community, just sharing about you, where you are, where you've been, what you've got coming up next. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to have a conversation with her. So I went, I responded to the email and I said, I would love to have her join me on my podcast. And he was like, that would be great. Absolutely. And I'm thinking, I wonder, did he even ask her if she wanted to do it? Because he answered me so quickly. So I really, really appreciate you joining me. And I would like for us to get started. I didn't purposely tell more about you other than your involvement with gymnastics, because I would like for you to share that story with the audience. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, just going back real quick to when my dad had said, when he sent it to me, I saw it immediately and I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, I'm so in. Like, he could have answered that for me. But, well, my name is Morgan Leigh and a bunch of my friends call me Mo. And so that's kind of been, the nickname definitely makes sense from the energy that I had just growing up. But I began gymnastics at 2 years old, 2.5. And so I've been doing it for 20 years, which still blows my mind because that just sounds like a really long time. And it feels like a really long time. But it was just such a joy. My story is, it's all about being bold and dreaming big. And so I just remember as a little kid, I just had so much energy and I was just always flipping and flying and doing crazy things right off the couch at dance practice and soccer. And they were like, put her in gymnastics. Like, she's flipping when she shouldn't be flipping. So I started in gymnastics and it was just an outlet, like as anyone starts a sport, right? Of like an outlet to go have fun and play. And that's what it was. And then I would learn skills and I would just try different things and be a daredevil, whatever. And then it became this question mark of, well, soccer or gymnastics, because I couldn't spend my time on both. And I remember being there being like, man, I love both, like, what do I do? Or I like doing this, but I also like doing that. And so I just remember my mom telling me, like, Morley, you have a gift of flipping. Like, a lot of people don't do that. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, like you should use it. And I was like, okay. So I stay in gymnastics and, after some injuries and after, just ups and downs like we have, I just really started to realize that my dream was Auburn. and not any other school and not Olympics. I remember my coach coming up to me and being like, "You want to go to the Olympics?" And I was like, "No, like not at all." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, like did someone say something? Because I don't." And he was like, "Okay, well, we're moving you to the big bars then." I was like, "Okay." So then we go to we go that route, and I was like, all I want to go is go to Auburn. And so that would just became my dream. My mom went to Auburn, and then when I was being recruited, it was really interesting. They made a new rule recently how you can't recruit before their junior year of high school. Well, not back in my day, not like but this what happened about 2 years ago. So when I was being recruited, I was recruited in 8th grade. And yeah, and so I got my first offer right before high school. And I was like, I'm 15. Like I'm 14 and a half. Like, I don't know. And but all I knew was I wanted to go to Auburn. And at the time they didn't have any spots. And I just was like, oh, I think I need to take the scholarship if I'm offered it, right? Like, why would I deny a scholarship? So I ended up committing to Arkansas. And then in my junior year of high school, I tore my labrum in my shoulder. And Arkansas was like, we really need you on bars. And it kind of came to this really big life decision at like 17 or 16 of being like, okay, my future, like, do I risk my shoulder for a place that, like, don't get me wrong, Arkansas is fabulous, but it wasn't where my heart was. And so I was like, do I risk it all to go somewhere that my heart isn't? And then I was like, or do I take a leap of faith and go where my heart is? And I was like, it was my dream one time. And I grew up in Orlando, which is probably a little bit biased on my opinion, but I was like, Mommy, dreams come true, right? Like Disney. Yes. So I was like, that like stuck with me. I'm not even kidding. Like I literally was like, well, Mickey Mouse said dreams come true. So I'm going to go the dream route. Yes. So I was like, so I called him and I was just like, hey, like, I don't think this is the right fit for me. Because I was just on a verbal scholarship. And so I called Auburn and they were like, we'll take you as a walk-on. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, at least I'm going where my heart is, because if something happens and I can't ever do gymnastics, I'd rather be at Auburn. And then I earned a scholarship my sophomore year. And when, Mickey Mouse said it, it was true. Dreams really do come true. And it was just so amazing. And then it was just the most magical career, building in faith, building as a human. Just, it was incredible. And it was a legendary career. And I could not be more thankful. But that's just a little bit about my gymnastics background and just kind of a little bit about my life.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I was trying to keep up with you because I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to ask her more about this. But one of the things that really stuck out to me that you said was when you were first asked about when you finally decided, yes, gymnastics is what I'm going to do, and then you were asked by your coach about going to the Olympics, and you were very adamant, like, no, I don't want to do that. Right. And that's so opposite for what most young girls think. Like, I do want to go to the Olympics. What was it behind that decision? How did you know that was just not the route that you wanted to do?
So, well, that's actually a fabulous question. So when I was growing up, I went to Brandy Johnson's Global Gymnastics Academy, which is in Claremont, Florida. And that was right next to the National Training Center. And so every gymnast in the Orlando or, right outside of Orlando area, they knew that this was the gym to go to if you were going to go big time. Right. And so I was there because I didn't really like any of the other, or I was 2 when I started. Right. But like, I just fit in at Brandy's. And so I just started there, and their coaching is just so incredible. And it equips you to be Olympians. And Brandy herself was an Olympian. And so it just, she knows what it takes to get there. So I was brought that question, and at the time I was the youngest in my group. So I was in a group with girls who were training elite, who were training for the Olympic trials, or who were training to go to, because you have to be an elite, before you go. And so they were all elite. And I think I was like a level 9, but you can do the TOPS program at like 11. So I think I was at that age. So they were like, well, we're preparing you to go to TOPS. So like, if you don't want to go the elite route, you wouldn't prepare that way. And then that season lasts longer. And anyway, so they had to have this like conversation with me. And I had seen that like the older girl who was in elite, she was at the gym all the time. Like she was there like 10 hours. And I was like, does she go to school? Like she's like 18. And I'm like, where are all her friends? Like,
right.
I get that. That was great. Like she does have friends, but I was like,
Right.
she's here all the time. Like, I was like, I'm sorry. I don't love anything this much to be there all the time. Like not, no, I'm just kidding. But I just was like, I value academics. I value social life. I value a balance of being able to see my family of, it was just that it was my dream and my heart was, I want to be an Auburn gymnast. And it just, that dream was bigger than anything else. And so it really wasn't even a hard decision for me because I was like, Olympics, no. Like, and yeah, you might have talent, but I was like, I'm not willing to give up school. I'm not willing to give up family. I'm not willing to give up time that it's gonna, because that's not even where my heart is. Right. I just knew it at the time. I was like, no, I only want to go to college. No, me, I don't want to go to the Olympics, only college. So that's kind of like how that happened, which it's not very, I just was like,
Well, I think that, because how old were you when that question was posed that they asked about how old were you?
I think I was 10 or 11 because I had just broken my elbow on, I tripped on the vault runway and broke it. And I had like a major growth spurt. So I like grew 6 inches and I was hitting my feet on the top of the bar. That's why. So he like came up to me because you have to be on FIG, that really small setting. And so he was like, do you want to come up? Do you want to be an Olympian? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, you're like about to break your feet on the bar because I was doing straight giants.
Yes.
And I was like, I am? And he was like, yeah. And if you don't want to go to the Olympics, I'm moving you to the wide setting because you're too tall now for this because I grew. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was just like, great.
Right. Right. And for those of you who are watching who gymnastics may not be the thing, or she's talking a little bit more technical than you're like, I'm not really following this. So when the elite gymnasts, the girls who are on that Olympic track, they all have the same bar set. And you might wonder, well, why don't they adjust the bars to their height? When you go to worlds, or if you're doing international competition and you're on a team with other girls who are not your teammates, it makes it more efficient for everyone to have the same bar setting. And so FIG, which is the Federation of International Gymnastics, I think that's what that comes out to. They came up with the criteria of what it's supposed to be. So no matter where you are, if you're on that track, whether you're in the United States or in another country, whatever the FIG rules are, everyone goes by those same FIG rules. And it just makes the competitions a lot more, I guess, even, because as Morgan Lee said, when you grow, you have to learn how to adjust your skills. So for example, with her doing her giants where she's swinging a handstand full body around the high bar, she would have had to learn how to straddle down in between the bars so that she didn't clip her feet on the low bar. So that's really, I just wanted to give a little bit more detailed information to our audience so that they would understand that. And I just think that at that age, for you to be so adamant that I want to be focused on these are the things that are important to me, and I'm not willing to sacrifice that. And I hope that some of our listeners that are viewing this pick up on that make sure that you go with what you're passionate about and that you aren't afraid to stick to it, no matter what someone else is telling you. She, at a young age, at 10 years old, she realized, wait a second, I don't want to go into homeschooling. I want to be able to go and interact with my friends. And there's not anything wrong with that if that's what someone chooses to do. But she knew for her that wasn't going to work. And she also, this is the next question I want to ask you. You knew that there was no other option other than Auburn. I have a few of my clients that are right there at that juncture where they're having to make a decision about going to school. And some of them are receiving offers and some of them are considering being a walk-on. I would like for you to speak to that athlete where they're making a decision about their school and what things should be the most important, even if they are being offered a scholarship.
So that is I think that's a very, very great topic, especially that it needs to be more widely known because a lot of the times you go towards money and it makes sense. But, and I'm thankful that I didn't necessarily get too far in before I could realize which direction I actually needed to go. But obviously I was very passionate as a kid, still am, just very passionate about my decisions. And so for me, I always wanted to go to Auburn, and I was very grateful that my mother went to Auburn, right? So that influenced a ton of my decisions. My mom is my role model. She's incredible. She is just the strongest woman I know. And I just want to grow up to be just like her. And so to see how she is, and then to as a kid, I always just she taught me the Auburn fight song and all this stuff. So I connected my mom to Auburn. So I was like, okay, if I love my mom and she loves us in Auburn, I want to go to Auburn, right?
Right.
And so I was like, okay, that kind of made sense to me. But then when that didn't happen, or when I realized that they didn't have any spots, I kept looking. And so I was offered by really incredible schools, and I am so grateful for the offers and for the opportunity to go to those schools. I was offered by many SEC schools, many schools out west, many schools up in the Northeast. It was incredible, and I didn't even know what it all meant. But when I laid it down, it came between two SEC schools. I forget the other one, but I think it was Missouri and Arkansas and Alabama. Those were my top three. And I remember being in the plane coming back from Arkansas and making a pro and con list. And my mom, she encouraged me. She was like, Morley, you have to make a decision soon. So I would make a pro and con list, but she didn't want to have any influence in it. She was like, you need to do it, and then you can show me. And so I remember sitting there, and I would say my first piece of advice is to make a priority list to you. So my priority was obviously education comes first. Gymnastics doesn't last forever. It's not like football. It's not like baseball. It doesn't really it's not the NBA, not the MLB, not the NFL. You don't really keep going, especially when you choose the not Olympic route and you choose college. There is no after college.
Right.
I mean, for some very few, but no. So I was like, okay, education is very important to me. And if you know what you want to do, which a lot of people do not, and that's fine. But if you know what you want to do, I would say find a school that can accommodate. I asked at the time, I wanted to go into medicine. I'm not really sure why. It doesn't really fit me anymore, but I wanted to go into being into medicine. And so Alabama wouldn't let me do night school for that. So I was like, okay, that I either got to change my major or change my school, because they wouldn't do gymnastics and night school at the same time. You wouldn't have any sleep. So I realized I had to make a list of the top 5 things that were most important to me. And then I made a top 5 things that were really great about each school. And so for me, I like being in the heat. Not even going to lie, that matters to me. So I was like, I'm not going to Utah. I'm not going to Pittsburgh. I'm not going. Missouri was too cold. Let's be for real here. So I was like,
yes,
I can't do that. So that had a factor. Just, things that mattered. So I say make your priority list. If that's it, if school is it, if the football team is important to you, go as cliche as you need to, but those things and where your heart is. Because if you're passionate about your top 5 and the school matches with it, you're going to be passionate about it there. And so that was kind of my thing of it. Then I listed it all out, and I really loved Arkansas. Had more things. The downtown community was cuter. The farmers markets were there. It felt like I had attached things about Arkansas to where I grew up. And so I was like, okay, this feels like a good fit. This feels homier, right? And so for me, Auburn really hits all of that, because it's a family. It's feels like home. It's in the South. It is where my mom went. But I just say, you have to make, and one of the biggest and the best pieces of advice I got was take gymnastics out of it. Take your sport out of it and see where you go, because it doesn't last forever, and you never know when and it's awful to say, but you never know when you might get injured, or you never know when your end date is. It's not always when we want it to be. It's not always when we expect it to be. And so I definitely say, take your sport out of it and then gravitate wherever you feel the best, go there. And so normally people try to tell you don't make decisions off of feelings, but that's one that it's okay, if I feel good here, that I'm going to be happier for 4 years here. Right.
Yeah.
So that was the process I took, at least. And it was tough. It was really tough, because they're all great schools, but it's where you feel the most at home.
Exactly. I appreciate you sharing that because when I'm talking with my clients that are having to make that decision, that's the very first thing. One of the questions that I ask them is, would you select this school if gymnastics was not
Hmm.
part of the decision? And when they pause and they hesitate, I was like, then you've got to do some more sitting with that
Hmm.
to really, because you're going to be there for 4 years and you might decide after your first year, hey, I'm ready to retire from this because you've been doing it a really long time, is what I usually tell them. And you want to make sure it switches. Your gymnastics when you're not in college is more for the enjoyment of it. When you get to college and you're competing, it's like a job.
It's
So
a
you
whole
got to
different ball.
love it. It is a whole different ball game and you got
Yeah.
to love what it is you're doing. You mentioned that Auburn didn't have an offer for you. So when you went, were you a walk-on initially or what
Mhm.
happened?
Yep, I came and he was like, I remember calling and I was like, hey, tore my labrum, but Arkansas really wanted me for bars, but I can't really do bars anymore. And he told me on the phone right before National Signing Day, he was like, well, we don't need bars. Like I've actually got bars covered. We could use you on the other three. And I was like, wow, like that seemed kind of like a God thing. Like I was just like, wow,
Yes.
that was all faith and that was just perfect. Like I was like, what
Mhm.
school is going to be like, oh, I don't need that, and
Right.
especially my dream school. And so it just felt, and then I was like, okay, so we keep keeping in contact. And he was like, well, I don't have any scholarships for you, but I've always wanted you on this team. And we have a spot, we have a walk-on spot. And so I was like, so I sat with that and I was like, if I couldn't do gymnastics, where would I go? And it was Auburn. Right. And so I
Yeah.
was like, that was my decision for me. So I was like,
Right.
walk on or not, the fact that I can still do the sport I love. But I was like,
Mhm.
but it just made me, I still wanted it. The walk on didn't necessarily click a button in my head of like, oh, I don't really want it anymore now. I'm gonna do it just because I can. It was not that at all. It was like,
Mhm.
all right, like you've given me an opportunity. I'm
Mhm.
about to be the best walk on you've ever seen, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
kind of it. It went into that mode of like, okay, well, this is where my heart is, and I'm gonna grind as hard as anyone could grind to get there, right?
Mhm.
So then
Mhm.
I came in with that attitude, and I was like, you know what, I can. I mean, I went through a lot of battles my freshman year
Mhm.
of feeling like I was good enough because that was something I struggled with a lot, and then especially coming out, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it and say that I didn't have those issues coming in as a walk on. I did. There
Mhm.
were times when I was like, am am I supposed to be here? Am I good enough to be here? Am I good enough to be in
Mhm.
the lineup? They didn't want me then. Do they want me now? Like those
Right.
types of things, right? And so those do
Mhm.
come in. And I
Mhm.
was, I had to work through a lot of that. And had I not gone through, I used to dread being in the middle of that freshman year. But looking back on it, it is what taught me that I am enough. You are enough no matter, no one
Oh,
can put
good.
a title on your position except for you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you are accepted and you are chosen and you are here on purpose. And those are the things that I learned is that no one can tell me that I'm not good enough to be in a space. I can work at it. Like I am meant to be here. And I always
Right.
felt that. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, my heart was always in it. And so,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, so then I, worked through that and I was like, I'm going to become the best version of me. And I think, then I think I was searching for approval of
Mm.
coaches wanting me, of approval of because I didn't have a scholarship. So you didn't feel approved, right? And
Right.
you
Yeah.
didn't feel like you were as good and really that's not the case. It's not. If
Mm-mm.
you look at like now that I'm on the flip side of it, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't the case. That like it didn't like sometimes you make decisions and sometimes people get injured and sometimes you don't even know,
Yeah.
right? And so
Right.
it doesn't it definitely growing up plays out and I think that's why they made that rule a thing of junior year
Right.
because they were
Yeah.
recruiting too early
Way
and
too early.
right and the fact that they didn't have any spots when I was in ninth grade I was
That's
like
silly.
yeah,
That's
that's
so
a
crazy. That is so
but
crazy.
right and so then it's like you don't know how people are going to be when they're 14 versus 20 like you're in
No.
college from 19 to 22 and
Yeah.
you're recruiting at 12, 13, 14, and 15 they
Right.
don't even know who they are, right? Like I
No.
didn't know who I
Yeah.
was. I couldn't drive a car, and yet you're asking me to be a collegiate athlete. I'm like
Right.
that. Sorry, I'm not great at math, but that does not add up. Like
It does not add up.
it
You're
math.
right. The math isn't mathing on that one.
I
That
was
is for
like,
sure.
no. And so
That is
anyway, so there are battles with that, but I knew that one day it would, there was that thing that Matthew McConaughey had said, that my hero is me in 10 years. And so
that's
I
right.
was like, the little girl who started with the dream of being here is living her dream by being a gymnast at Auburn. Like by being a walk-on, it didn't matter that I was a walk-on. I was living my dream of being an Auburn gymnast. That's all I ever wanted. And so I was doing it for her. And so what would she do? She would work hard. She would grind,
Right.
and she would do the best that she can do, no matter if she gets a scholarship, if she doesn't. She would
Right.
still grind. And so then that's kind of where it shifted, was like, I'm going to do it for her, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to do the hard work, and I'm going to learn that I'm enough because she's enough, right. If I'm going to look at her, and I was like, I would never tell her that she's not enough. Right. So why am I telling you? And so I was like, let me switch that and tell myself I can do this. Like, I am here and I'm meant to be here, and I'm going to make the most of it. And then it's my sophomore year, like earning a scholarship was just the cherry on. Like, that was immeasurably more than I could have asked or imagined. And that was for her, but it was all, it taught me so much. And I think one thing that I definitely have reflected on is that I appreciate being an Auburn gymnast so much more now that I had to work for it rather than I did it. And so it would have been easy to just be like, oh, I'm an Auburn gymnast. That was my dream growing up. Got it. Like, it could have been, but there's no story. Like, there's a story when there's adversity. And I'm glad that I went through that adversity to share with someone else. You can do it. When all odds are against you, you still can do it. Like, when it doesn't look like there's any way, there's a way. Like, I'm so glad that I can sit on this side saying this story, preaching this, rather than saying, oh, it all worked out.
Yes, exactly. That is awesome, Morgan Lee. I appreciate you sharing that. That's hopefully going to inspire someone, whether they're getting ready to embark on a decision on, do I do a walk on, or is gymnastics over for me? Or if they're not even gymnast and they're looking at opportunities that they're facing and they're wondering, do I take this opportunity because it doesn't look exactly like I thought it was going to be, but it checks all the other boxes. And so that was an inspiration. I have a question for you, because I'm not as versed in the latest thing but I'm so grateful that they're there. But I would like for you to talk to the audience and me as well about NILs and your involvement, or have you just what's all the fuss about NILs?
Oh, well, okay. So NIL it stands for name, image, and likeness. And it's a new legislation that the NCAA passed to allow student athletes to make money on their name, image, and likeness and still be eligible. So in the past, yes, exactly. So in the past, they had not been able, professional athletes couldn't have done an ad and come back to athletics. This way, it actually allows for you to make money in college, which I think is such an interesting, especially for student athletes, because, as we do come from that topic of being a walk-on, some athletes have to come as walk-ons and then they have to pay their way out. Right. And so now if they, they can take the platform of NIL, whether that is, you can take what you're passionate about. So whether it's a baseball player and he comes as a walk-on to a school, but he's passionate about fishing, well, now he can go get a fishing NIL deal. And say he's a blah, blah, blah baseball player. And now he can pay for whatever funds he needs to pay for school, or you can save them, or whatever it is. Or you can spend them, all the above. But NIL is really cool. And so I've been so blessed to just be able to embark on this brand new legislation and be, a pioneer of a lot of things. And so it's given my creative mind just its own outlet. And it's been so cool because I've gotten to meet such incredible people. I've gotten to do such incredible projects. I've made an NFT. I got to work with an actual artist who painted me.
Nice.
So cool. I mean, and it was like a dream come true seeing the Auburn gymnast come to life. Right. And so it means more. It's just like my passions, I can connect to things that I'm passionate about. So whether that's fashion, whether that's mentoring, whether that's podcasts, whether that's, anything, speaking engagements, helping young athletes, like now I can do this with more freedom than I could before. And it just kind of gives us an outlet and a platform to meet new people and to share inspiring stories on just bigger, better platforms and, just to expand us. So I think it's an awesome thing. I've done, a lot of deals. I've been so blessed. I got to do a deal with Michael Kors. I don't know how, like what?
Whoa.
Yes,
So how does that work? Do they contact you? Like how?
So it was like a liaison agency. So like there was, I guess, an agency that had a lot of brands on their platform, and then they were reaching out. So a sweet woman reached out to me. She emailed me and was like, hey, Michael Kors wants to do a deal. So like Michael Kors didn't directly contact me, but they were on their behalf. So you have avenues like that. Or there's a lot of times where I'll DM people that I want to work with, right? Like I've DM'd, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I've DM'd Apple and Mercedes-Benz just because I'm like, you know what? Why not try, right? Like I'm not afraid of a no. I mean, you can't ever get there if you don't ever ask.
This is true. Did they respond?
No, of course not. No, sure didn't. But it was worth the shot. I remember being in my business class, like, who can I reach out to for these deals? And I was like, Mercedes-Benz, why not?
Right. I mean, go big.
I was like, but I mean, what if they respond, right? So I was just like, but that's a lot of things is my dad, I'm so thankful. And like you said earlier, he's like my dadager. So he reaches out on a lot of the behalfs of things. I call him my dad manager. He's just so cute. And so he helps me with a lot of things. He gets me in contact with, a lot of different people and a lot of different companies or organizations or podcasts or different things. And then I've actually been so surprised by the amount of student athlete led and founded NIL companies. So like,
really?
Yes. So I've worked with a guy who is a football player. He's a punter. He just transferred. And so he was at Michigan State, but he created his own t-shirt line, his own line it's called Saved Through Him. So it's a Christian brand, which is so awesome. And so he created that brand while being a student athlete. And then another company that I've worked with is there's tons of like these agencies, but they're started and led and founded by student athletes. And I just think that that's so neat. So it's given almost the ability to be an entrepreneur while you're still in college.
Exactly.
So it's so
exactly.
Cool. It's like jumpstarting. Yeah, it's jumpstarting a lot of careers. It's definitely like it's helped me so much in my careers. I've done such incredible deals before. I'm continuing to. I've worked with Kitnish. I've worked with, like Soap and Glory. I don't know if you ever heard of the lotion company, or just like you can do like beauty products. I've worked with You to the People. I've worked with like phone case companies. I've worked with, my thing is that I want it to be completely authentic. So if I do it, like it has to align with my values. So like I'm not just going to post something on my Instagram for money. And so I want companies, like that's something that's so special to me, is that when my Instagram, it is a reflection of me. It's a reflection of what I believe in. It's a reflection of, how can you get to know me before you meet me in person? Like that kind of thing. That's how I want to see it. So when people see me on there, I want them to be like, everything I do is authentic and it's intentional and it's for a purpose. And so like, there have been deals that like I've had a carbonated water company reach out to me, and like, I don't drink soda. I don't drink anything carbonated. And the only thing I drink besides water is Arnold Palmer, which give me some sweet. So like, that's all I'm saying. And so if Arnold Palmer or, his backups now, yes. But if it's, so then I had that company and I was like, no, I'm sorry, Dad. Like, I don't drink carbonated water, and I'm not going to start now just for an NIL deal. And so there are times that I'm like, not that the company wasn't great, it just didn't align with me.
Exactly.
So that's so important, especially in like, that's what I've noticed within like not necessarily like the Hollywood world, but like the world of fame. As you grow and as you get in contact with more brands, I would rather say no than it not align with me. And there are times that like I have listened to Tim Tebow speak, and he was talking about, I saw him last May or last June. And he was talking about how he went pro for baseball, and he had this like $1 million deal, or like something like very, very high money. And he was like, let me take it. And his coach told him like, no, like I'd prefer if you didn't. And he was like, so he had to go sit with, okay, this is a lot of money. I'm sure my coach will forgive me, or like, this is my integrity and like what my baseball coach believes in me. Right. And so I didn't take the deal because my connection and my relationship with them was more important. And I was like, it just really spoke to me in that moment, because I was like, there are things that you do have to get to, because you're not going to, I encourage not to take every deal you get, because then that's where NIL can get overwhelming, is people will just be reaching out to you. And if you're just it loses its value. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's where I kind of have seen it, but I've been working with such incredible people and been doing mentorships, been having, signing things. It's just incredible, because all the glory goes to the Lord, because this platform is just so, I've been given this platform, but only to inspire others. And it's not about me. It's not about the money I can give. And that's how I see NIL, is I would rather it just be a platform where I can use to build you up and to inspire everyone else to dream big and be bold and never stop until they reach that, instead of the money. And that's what it's about for me. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot about NILs. I hear people talking about it, but I'm happy to hear you say that for you and your what's personal for you is your values. And it's not the money. That's not the driving factor. If it doesn't align with your personal values, it doesn't matter how wonderful it is. It's just not a fit for you. It's not to say that it's bad. It's to say that it's just not a fit for you. Now, you recently, or you're about to graduate from Auburn, right?
Yes, I'm about to graduate. Oh man, I'm about to graduate in May. And then I am just so excited, because NIL has opened so many doors and it's just so many connections that I am just in awe of. Like, seriously, it is immeasurably more. And I keep going back to that. And so, but I will be attending Auburn in the fall for my graduate program. I'm going to get my master's in communication. My major was communication. My minor was leadership. And so I'm going to go back because I really want a master's, and I can't wait to learn more about it. And then I just had a lot of other things where the NIL deals have kind of turned into like influence or like real job type stuff. And I'm like, I would have never even, guessed that. Or when I was, looking at, well, what am I going to do after college? NIL didn't exist when I came in. Right. And so it's crazy that now it's like a job to me.
It is
just like continuing. And it's so incredible and so amazing. And so I will do my graduate school, and then I'm hopeful at some point to go to law school, whether that's right after or down the road. But I, will be mentoring over the summer student athletes. And I'm also working on another project that is really, really exciting, and I cannot wait to share it.
Go ahead.
It's incredible. I just can't wait to, I'm working on it has to do with fashion. I don't know when I'm allowed to like really say it, but
okay.
When it comes out, it's going to be huge. So,
and then you'll come back and talk about it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, because I don't want you to like divulge anything that maybe you shouldn't be doing.
No, it's perfect. No, but there are just it's just so many things that can continue throughout this summer, and especially before my graduate program. I'm actually going to be starting mentorships here in May, which is just so incredible. That was also created by former wrestler.
Do you want to get some water? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that would be good.
Take your time. I know when that happens to me, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. Why would it have to happen now? Okay.
But his name is Ryan, and he began his own mentoring company. And it's incredible because he was a wrestler for MIT, and they're MIT and Harvard graduates. And they are just, besides being brilliant, they are athletes that started this own business to just give back. Like, that was his only thing. And so when he had reached out to me, I was like, that is me. Like, that is who I am. I just want to give back to people. I want to help athletes go through what I went through. I want to be there because we all need that person. We all need people on our journey.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's all about community, And for me, when he reached out, I was like, yes, like giving back, helping inspire. That is what I am all about, and helping inspire younger athletes to follow their dreams, to when they have a question, being there and being able to answer it, whether it's in gymnastics, whether it's what decision do I make, whether it's, we all have those. It doesn't necessarily have to be technical gymnastics coaching all the time.
Right.
It can
Right.
be, hey, how do I go about recruiting? What kind of emails do I send? Or
Yes.
like those things, or what made you so confident before you went up for meets? I feel really shaky, but I do really well in the gym. Like those types of things. Those are so real. And like, if I would have had, I did have mentors growing up, and that's why I'm like, it's more important now than ever as NIL comes and as social media comes and as the world just, progresses. There is so much more of a need for community and just strength and, in that and relationships. And so I am just so excited to be getting this new project. It's called Chasing Greatness Mentorships. And that is just the most fitting title. And he just giving me the opportunity, I'm so thankful for, just to be able to give back, meet young athletes of any kind, any sport, but, gymnasts, how I can relate to them. And I just can't wait to help them follow their dreams. And because I was there too, we all do that.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. And so with your mentorship, that is going to involve athletes of all levels, right before they get to college and while they're getting into college. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes. So it can be any, I think anyone who needs a mentor should have a mentor. Like I remember being like 11 or 12 and getting a mentor because I was like, at that time I was being recruited for college, which thank goodness that's not the case anymore. But there are just times when you're going, when you get injured, you need someone then more than ever. Like I remember my first injury, I was like, I've never had an injury. Like I'm 10 years old. How do I come back from this? Not that you couldn't. It's just like, it's new territory. Okay, well, what do I do? How can I stay out? What did you do? I've had like 9 injuries, like 9. I've had surgery. I've had broken bones. I've had concussions. And I've had to come back from each one of those because mom always told me like, you can quit when you're on a high. So I was like, all right. So I would get to a high. She's like, do you want to quit now? I was like, Mom, why would I want to quit now?
That was pretty smart.
And I was like, that was so smart of her.
That was.
It's too good. I was like, okay, you got that one. So, we would always fall down 6, you get up 7, 8, 9, and so I can't wait to mentor young athletes, no matter what kind, because everyone has, different battles. And so whether it's someone needing mentoring on the recruiting process, I'm there. I've been through it. I know the emails to send. I know the calls to make. I know how to reach out. I know because the rules are so interesting where you can't call them or they can call you until a certain day. And then what kind of videos do I send? How often do I text? Like there's all those things.
All the things.
And then, the mental and the physical and the emotional well-being, that is so important to me. And that's something that I learned along my journey. But if I can help give that back to someone at an earlier age, then they can tackle the gymnastics part of it, because I can tell you that 70% of it is outside. It's mental, it's emotional well-being, it's sleep, it's eat, it's what you tell yourself, it's journaling, it's vision boards. It's not a backflip and sticking. I promise you that will come when everything else is squared away. So it's like, those are the things that, I'm just so thankful to have had such an incredible career and such incredible counselors, mentors, coaches, friends, teammates, that now I feel prepared and equipped with tools to help lead the other gymnasts and to help lead upcoming people. Because I remember being her, and I remember looking up to the Auburn gymnast saying, what do I need to get there? Or any college gymnast being like, what is it? Tell me the trick. Tell me the secret. Like, what is it? And so I just can't wait to be there giving, and just to help inspire and encourage them along their journey, because that's what it is.
Right. Oh, that's so good. And for anyone that's watching, you don't have to worry about how to get in touch with her. I'm going to share it in a little bit, but it's also going to live in the show notes. And that's where it brings us up to our call to action as we get ready to wrap up. And I appreciate you so much, Morgan Leigh, sharing and just pouring out to the audience, and whatever that next thing is that you're doing, as soon as you're able to talk about it, make sure you get back in touch with me so that we can come and share it all here. But I want to share Morgan Leigh's social with you. You can reach her on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Morgan Leigh Oldham. And make sure you're following her. Reach out, ask her more questions about her mentorship. If you are an athlete and you're coming out of high school and you're getting ready to transition into college and you didn't get an offer and you want to talk to her a little bit more about how that was, this is how you can get in touch with her. And as she just shared, she's happy to talk with you. This is part of her purpose in terms of giving back to others. And before I let you go, I always do this final thoughts with my guest. And I know you weren't expecting this, but that's okay. It's the element of surprise, and you'll do fine. So, in the final thoughts, what is the one mindset shift that you would like to leave with the audience when it comes to dreaming big, being bold?
That is so good. And I love the surprise. But I think the one thing that, kind of like we were sharing earlier is like, I love the thing that you can't ever get it if you don't ever try. Right. And we've also, that kind of goes into, I'm actually writing a book, which I forgot to mention, but in that book, there's a chapter called I Love Failing. And it's so interesting because you'd be like, is she crazy? Like, who loves failing? But it's like, you win or you learn, And so it's like,
That's
if
exactly
I don't try it, then, and it's kind of like that saying, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but it's true. It's like, if I don't try it, my answer will always be no. But if I try it and I fail, then I learn.
Exactly.
And then if I keep doing that, I'm going higher. Like, if I keep doing that, I'm actually going to get better. I'm going to learn more. I'm going to be more equipped when it comes to those things. And I would actually rather be so bold and dream so big that I go way higher than I think I can, so that I like, that's, no matter where I shoot, I'm going to grow. And I'm either going to grow or I'm going to win. But to me, it's just about, like, I'm in it. Like, I'm going to try the hard thing because I can, because I'm capable and I'm called, and I can dream bigger, and I can be bolder, and I can continue to just reach new heights. And so it was like, that's kind of what I would leave y'all with, or, tell anyone, is that, like, if you don't ever try, you can't ever get it. And so I would just say, go big, because you'll learn, you'll win, and there is no losing there. And I just think that's what creates character. That's what creates purpose. That's what creates joy and meaningfulness. And just, that's what gives people that passion that is a magnet. And that's what actually makes you, are those times that you've learned. And so those are what I would leave you with, because that's what I would tell my younger self. And that's what I stick with every day, is if I don't try, I can't have it. So
that's right. Exactly. Thank you so much, Morgan Leigh. Again, I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you sharing, and I wish you all the best when it comes to your mentorship, this new endeavor that you're embarking on, and writing your book. We share something else in common, because I'm also about to publish my first book too. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much. So and that whole part about failing, I call it failing forward.
Yes,
on this journey of book writing. And I've got enough of that I am happy to share with you when that time comes.
Perfect.
So just make sure you reach out. But thank you again for joining us. And I'm looking forward to you coming back soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This truly was an honor. And it was just so wonderful to, learn from you, and just to get to have this conversation. And I just could not be more grateful for your time. And just thank you so much for doing this.
It's my pleasure. Thank you again. And there you have it. This was an excellent conversation. I wish we could have just continued talking. She is so dynamic and inspiring and enthusiastic, and just there is this aura about her, and it's just very contagious, and I'm really grateful that she joined us. Thank you all for joining us live. I appreciate your time and you sharing in the comments. Be sure to reach out to Morgan Leigh and let her know how you can support her mentorship program. I appreciate you following me. If you're not following me on all of my platforms, please do so, and please share it with your friends. As I mentioned, I am writing my very first book. It is entitled The Lost Skills Syndrome: An Athlete's Guide to Discovering Mental Blocks, Increasing Confidence, and Achieving Your Goals. And I'm super close to publishing. Keep your eyes open for pre-orders. I'll be announcing that on all of my social media. If you're an athlete or a parent of an athlete and their skills are intermittent, one day they'll have the skill, the next day they don't. And you're getting the answers like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't do it. Go on my website and schedule a clarity call. I know exactly what's wrong with them, and I would love to partner with them and help them to get through that process. And just a spoiler alert for next week, my special guest next week is the first signee of the second HBCU gymnastics program at Talladega, and none other than Kristen Johnson. And I hope that you'll join us and hear all about this experience that she's embarking on and making history. And thank you again for joining us. And until next time, remember, your life is only as good as your mindset. Make it a great one.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, life is only as good as your mindset.